సార్ ఇప్పుడు కనబడుతుంది, మీ స్క్రీన్ కనబడుతుంది ఇప్పుడు.
Let us start this session. So, welcome to Health Psychology online class. Today we will be covering 4th, 5th and 6th units. So, the topic is understanding about the stress. Stress గురించి మనం అర్థం చేసుకుందాం. So, stress. Hello, are you able to hear me? వినపడుతుందా?
సార్ క్లియర్ సార్.
Okay. So, we'll be starting our journey into the stress, and we'll be understanding in depth into the stress and what causes stress and how to cope up. These are all the 3 units we are going to cover today. So in this, we all experience stress every day. So the World Health Organization, WHO, calls stress as the health epidemic of 21st century. In our past, in our fast-paced world, it is everywhere, from work pressure and the new technology to global events like COVID pandemic 19. So, which is the source of which is the sources described as the grave threat to humanity. But as the famous researcher Hansley once said, it is not the stress that kills us; it is our reaction to it. So today we are going to learn how that reaction works and how it shapes us live. So to understand the reactions, we first need to define what stress actually is, because it is more than just a feeling. Stress ante first అర్థం చేసుకోవాలి, ఫీలింగ్ ఒకటే కాదు. So let us deep dive into the stress. COVID-19 pandemic అప్పుడు we understood what is stress, how individuals feel, చిన్నదానికి ఎలా భయపడ్డాము, స్ట్రగుల్ అయ్యాము, ఇవన్నీ కూడా తెలుసుకోవాలంటే అసలు అదేంటో అర్థం చేసుకుందాం. Now, concept of stress. So, as it is core, stress is a natural human condition involving physical or mental condition and tension, physical or mental tension. It is our body's way of responding to real or even an imaginary threat. అది ఉంది, లేకుండా పోవచ్చు, కానీ దాని రియాక్షన్, బాడీ రియాక్షనే స్ట్రెస్ అని అంటాం. సో స్కిన్నర్ బ్యూటిఫుల్లీ డిఫైన్డ్, ఇట్ ఈస్ యువర్ బాడీస్ వే టు రెస్పాండింగ్ టు రియల్ ఆర్ ఈవెన్ అన్ ఇమాజిన్డ్ థ్రెట్. స్కిన్నర్ ఎలా డిఫైన్ చేశారంటే, నిజం అవ్వచ్చు, ఊహించుకోవడం వల్ల కూడా బాడీ ఇచ్చే రియాక్షనే స్ట్రెస్ అవుతుంది. సో స్కిన్నర్, one second. Yeah, Skinner defined as in a simple words as individual's reaction to specific stimulus. It is important to know that not all stress is bad. Prati stress bad kaadu. We have it is called eustress. Eustress is a Greek word. Eu means good. Similarly, distress, dis means Latin word, which is bad stress. Okay. Good stress motivates us. It is also called motivator. Motivates us, like excitement before your exam or any very specific event, like going for first date, exam, a big game. So your good stress or eustress motivates you. It is like excitement sort of thing, and which excitement is there for shorter period, it will help you to cope up with the situation. Similarly, if it is for longer period, it becomes distress. If this excitement is there for longer period, it becomes distress. So it is also called bad stress. When life's demands feel too big for us to handle. మనం ఎప్పుడైతే లైఫ్ డిమాండ్స్ చాలా పెద్దగా అనిపిస్తాయో, తట్టుకోలేకపోతామో. ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్, ఏమవుతుంది, అక్కర్స్ డిమాండ్స్ వాస్ట్లీ ఎక్సీడ్స్ పర్సన్స్ కేపబిలిటీస్, threatening the quality of life. సేమ్ కంటిన్యూస్ ప్రాసెస్ జరుగుతూ ఉన్నప్పుడు ఇట్ బికమ్స్ బ్యాడ్ స్ట్రెస్. సో వాట్ ఆర్ ది మేజర్ కాజెస్? జనరల్గా one of the biggest external source of most adults is this place where we spend most of our day. That is called workplace. The source of workplace, generally modern work stress is often driven by technology that keeps us connected. మోడర్న్ దాంట్లో స్ట్రెస్ ఎక్కడి నుంచి వస్తుంది? కనెక్షన్ 24/7 కనెక్టివిటీలో ఉండడం వల్ల ఆల్వేస్ ఎక్కడ పోయినా సరే మనల్ని అందరూ రీచ్ అవ్వగలుగుతారు. దట్ ఆల్సో లీడ్స్ టు స్ట్రెస్. యూ మైట్ ఫేస్ ఎ రోల్ అంబిగ్విటీ, రోల్ కన్ఫ్యూజన్ ఉంటుంది. రోల్ అంబిగ్విటీ సిమిలర్లా ఎలా what do you call right. So generally external stress and internal stressors. External stressors are like noise. What sorts of noises? The noisy construction site or the noisy traffic and a rude person in the nearby or surroundings or the store, and this becomes this also creates a stress for us. Similarly, social interactions, rudeness in bullying in the schools, major life event like somebody's birth in the house or death, or health issues, critical or chronic stress issues. Similarly, daily hassles like simple problems can also, if they continuously happens, automatically it troubles us. And internal stressors elantivante life choices. For example, what if these are also called mind traps, confuse chesi trap chestu untayi manali. So mind traps, we create ourselves these mind traps, like being perfectionist, everything should be perfect, and or unrealistic expectations. According to American Psychological Association, the most common source for people are money, work, family, health. సో జనరల్లీ లైఫ్ చాయిసెస్ అంటే జనరల్గా మనం నిద్రపోకుండా ఉండడము, అతిగా వర్క్ చేయడము, వర్క్ లోడ్ ఎక్కువ ఉండడము. మైండ్ ట్రాప్స్ అంటే అన్రియలిస్టిక్ ఎక్స్పెక్టేషన్స్, అతిగా ఊహాలోకాల్లో ఉండడము. రిజిడ్ థింకింగ్, మన థింకింగ్ని చేంజ్ చేసుకోకపోవడం. అలాగే పర్సనాలిటీ ట్రేట్స్ ఉంటాయి. పర్ఫెక్షనిస్ట్, వర్క్హాలిక్, ఇలాంటివి. సో దీస్ ఆర్ ఆల్ ది సోర్సెస్ ఆఫ్ స్ట్రెస్సర్స్. నౌ లెట్ us try to understand in depth. So one of the biggest external sources for the most adults in the work place where we spend most of our time is workplace. So workspace, what are these sources? See, 24/7, right? So often modern work stress is often driven by technology that keeps us connected 24/7. So you might face role ambiguity, which is the confusion feeling of not knowing what you are actually supposed to do. ఏ పని చేయాలి అన్నది కన్ఫ్యూజన్ లో ఉంటుంది. దట్ ఈస్ వర్క్ రోల్ అంబిగ్విటీ. ఏది నాకు చేయాలి, ఏది ఇచ్చారు నాకు అన్న కన్ఫ్యూజన్ లో ఉంటుంది. నా రోల్ కి సంబంధించి వర్క్ చేయాలా లేదా. అలాగే రోల్ కాన్ఫ్లిక్ట్, వేర్ డిఫరెంట్ పీపుల్ గివ్ యూ ఆపోజిట్ ఇన్స్ట్రక్షన్స్. వన్ మేనేజర్ కమ్స్ టు యూ అండ్ టెల్స్ యూ టు డూ quality work. The other manager immediately comes, he wants quantity of work. So you get confused. So that is one. Then office politics. Bad lighting, unhygienic facilities can also turn regular job into major source of tension. So these are all the work-related tensions in a workplace environment, like politics, hiring policies, contract workers, contract jobs.
Sir, good afternoon, sir. Can I ask you one question, please?
Not in between this. Who is this?
Sir, I'm Krishna.
Yeah, after the class completion, you can do that. I have 3 units to cover. Just raise your hand and type the message so that I'll see and answer you. Okay. But as well as we all know that, work stress doesn't stay at home, work. It follows us home and mixes with our personal lives too. Okay. Then, work stress, modern work stress often, somebody is continuously, why do you want to call me? I'm in the class. Please don't distract me. So personal stress can come from daily hassles, like, Think of small annoyances like getting stuck in a traffic లో బ్లాక్ అయిపోవడం వల్ల కానీ, అలాగే ఇంట్లో డే టు డే వర్క్ లైక్ వాటర్ హీటర్ పాడైపోవడం ఏంది టైమ్స్ ఆఫ్ winter season, and water not coming, because water is a big problem for us. While one hassle is fine, they can pile up until they feel overwhelmed. ఒకటంటే పర్లేదు, అదే ఎక్కువ ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ క్రియేట్ అవుతుంటే డైలీ, ఇట్ ఆల్సో క్రియేట్స్ పర్సనల్ స్ట్రెస్. So we also juggle with multiple roles, like being a student, an employee, and a son, a father, etc. Sources tell us that major changes like job loss or death in a family are the biggest contributors to the stress related to illness. Now, these are so our battery depletes daily, has a one after other, slowly they accumulate and we are prone to stress related issues. Similarly, when our personal stresses build up, it is natural to affect the people we live with. Generally, even the people around us also get stressed due to us. Now, family stress. Family is a living system. It is not only one person, it is a living system where many people come together in a systematic way. So when one part of the family is stressed, it threatens the equilibrium or the balance. ఫ్యామిలీలో ఒక మెంబరు స్ట్రెస్తో ఉన్నప్పుడు ఆటోమేటిక్లీ ఆ బ్యాలెన్స్ పోయి మిగతా వాళ్ళని కూడా ట్రబుల్ ఇస్తుంది. ది హోల్ హౌస్ విల్ బి ఇన్ టు ట్రబుల్ బికాస్ ఎవ్రీ ఫ్యామిలీ హ్యాస్ డిఫరెంట్ వాల్యూస్. వాట్ స్ట్రెస్సెస్ వన్ ఫ్యామిలీ మైట్ నాట్ బాదర్ ది అదర్ వన్ ఎట్ ఆల్. ఒకరికి స్ట్రెస్ చేసేది ఇంకొకటి స్ట్రెస్ అవ్వకపోవచ్చు. ఓకే, ది a key takeaway here is that children models their parents behavior. Generally పిల్లలు వాళ్ళ పేరెంట్స్ బిహేవియర్ ని మోడల్ చేస్తూ ఉంటారు. ఇఫ్ పేరెంట్స్ ప్రాక్టీస్ హెల్తీ స్ట్రెస్ మేనేజ్మెంట్, ది హోల్ ఫ్యామిలీ is more likely to lead a healthy lifestyle. So if modeling behavior, generally we all know that parents are the first teachers of their children. So automatically whatever parents do, they automatically copy, and whole family can live happily if the positive stress management is there. If it is negative, then automatically the next generation also goes into similar practicing habits, and until and unless they are educated. So if we step outside our house or outside our door, what will happen? The neighborhood we live in adds even more pressure or stress to us. So community stress, this is also called community stress. So community stress comes from neighborhood environment. It includes physical stressors like loud noise, radiation exposure, visible light pollution, and particulate matter. So many things like and psychosocial stressors like community violence, discrimination. These pressures are often harder for lower income groups. Social disorientation, discrimination, gender biasness, all these things create a lot of stress. So communities become, they have fewer resources. So generally lower economic group people struggle a lot in this. So now the inequality multiplier, the stressors are vastly exaggerated in lower income and ethnic minority communities due to the structural limitations and drastically reduced resources. So society stress. So what is society stress? Cultural, it is like a cultural pressure cooker. So we live in a world that worships perfection and competition, right? This constant pressure to be best, I am the best, I should be best. This in education, sports, career, what the source is called, bane of modern existence. When a whole society is stressed, it actually hurts the economy. People become less productive and have more accidents, which impacts the quality of life for everyone. So automatically what happens, if more stress, cognitive stress or cognitive overload can lead to, it industrial errors like physical accidents and massive economic losses, disproportionately damaging the vulnerable demography, etc. Increased accidents, yes, cognitive overload leads to critical industrial errors, physical accidents, and massive economic losses, disproportionately damaging the vulnerable demography. So stress automatically not just affects you, it affects entire population around you. So now we have seen where the stress comes from. Let us look at the incredible way of our physical body responding to those pressures. Physical body ఏ విధంగా ప్రెషర్ ఫీల్ అవుతుంది, రెస్పాండ్ అవుతుందో చూద్దాం.
Sir, if you don't mind, can I ask you one question, please?
Yeah.
Sir, actually, so where we only had one class, and that was today. But can you tell you that there is always a second subject?
See, let us complete this and talk. I've hardly had 40 minutes now.
Yes, sir, but actually,
See, please
last.
don't distract. Let me complete. I have 3 units to cover. Then we'll discuss. Not a problem.
Okay, sir, I will talk to you in end of that
Okay.
live.
Please mute your mic, please. You should understand you are disturbing other students, please. Okay. Society. This. Okay. So we live in the world where we, again, so many confusions. Okay. Physiological telemetry. Telemetry is nothing but a measurement. The body is automatic. Yeah. So even though we think stress as all in our head, it has a direct automatic effect on our bodies. You have felt it before, like heart starts pounding and your breathing heavily quickens and rapid, shallow breathing. Once it is very high, sometimes it may be very, very low, like that. Then similarly, you're many times, I know, hyper alert, your mind becomes really hyper alert. That is neurological symptoms and massive spikes. Then cardiovascular symptom like heart starts pounding, blood pressure surges, and blood vessels contrast. So these are all the symptoms of blood pressure. So your body is, essentially preparing for a battle against the threat that might only happen in your imagination. Generally, it is in your imagination. Sometimes it may be real, but most of the times it is because of stress you feel it may happen. So your body functions differently. Now, the most famous of these physical responses in our ancient survival mechanism is known as fight or flight. So what is fight or flight? When we sense danger, the hypothalamus triggers hormonal cocktail, or a combination of hormones are released, like glucocorticoids, then cortisol. These are all released immediately. So hormonal cocktail like adrenaline, cortisol, these give you superhuman energy to cope up with the situation, and you become immediately. For example, let us assume that you are riding a car and you have to brake. Immediately you hit the brake. So here adrenaline and cortisol rushes in and you save life in emergencies. These sources were one, that chronic stress keeps this system on always. If it is continuously on, it becomes chronic stress all the time, which can damage your heart and immune system drastically. So see, with this step by step, you can understand first threat detection, real or imagined. Threat activates sympathetic nervous system fibers. Then the trigger is the hypothalamus, acts as a rapid response command center. It becomes a command center. Then the endocrine system automatically releases the adrenaline or cortisol, that is a stress hormone. then the action results. What happens, results tachycardic, acute anxiety, tremors, and increased blood glucose. What happens automatically? Everything systematically released. If it is for short time, it becomes a good stress. If it is a longer period, automatically it becomes a bad stress or distress. So chronic stress will damage and triggered chronically the state of suppressedness of it suppresses our immune system, upsets digestion, it speeds aging, and rewires your brain completely. So the emergence of responses are good for a moment, but Hansley discovered that our bodies go through a specific 3-act story when stress lasts for longer time. So what is this? GAS, General Adaptation Syndrome. Hansley, the father of stress, described this 3-stage process as alarm. First phase 1 is alarm, second phase is resistance, third phase is exhaustion. Excuse me. Exhaustion. So alarm says, as you can see, the mobilization of the resources, that is glucocorticoid, releases adrenaline and cortisol, and the internal siren sounds. So automatically what excessive sugar, glucocorticoid is nothing but the excessive sugar which is released in HPA axis. So immediately the adrenaline, amygdala, it automatically activates. Some threat is coming, so act immediately. That is the alarm. It says it sends signals to our prefrontal cortex. ముందు ఎగ్జిక్యూటివ్ ఫంక్షన్ తీసుకునే ఏరియాని యాక్టివేట్ చేస్తుంది. సో immediately respond అవ్వాలి. సో ఇక్కడ రెసిస్టెన్స్ సేర్, ఇఫ్ ఇట్ ఈస్ నాట్ ప్రాపర్లీ అడ్రస్డ్, ది బాడీ ట్రైస్ టు ఏమవుతుంది ఇక్కడ కౌంట్రాక్ట్స్ ది ఎనర్జీ బూస్ట్ అండ్ రిటర్న్ టు ది నార్మల్. జనరల్గా ఏమవుతుంది, పారాసింథసిస్ నర్వస్ సిస్టమ్ attempts to contract the changes. If the stressor remains, the body powers through in the state of false equilibrium. Continuous flow లో ఉంది, అప్పుడు ఏమవుతుంది, బాడీ ఆటోమేటిక్లీ ఈక్విలిబ్రియం బ్యాలెన్స్ పోతుంది. బ్యాలెన్స్ పోయినప్పుడు ఏం జరుగుతుంది? సో జనరలీ డిసీజ్ ఆఫ్ అడాప్షన్ అవుతుంది ఇక్కడ. జనరల్ గా ఎగ్జాంపుల్ కి లెట్ us assume a battery example. If the stress doesn't stop there, your energy battery runs out. This is this is where disease of adaptation occurs, like heart disease or depression happens, because your body literally cannot or no longer fights back. Okay, so here we have seen how the body can break down, but why do some people seem to have invisible shield that protects them? కొంతమందిని ఎంత వచ్చినా సరే ఎలా ప్రొటెక్ట్ చేసుకుంటారు, బాడీ ప్రొటెక్షన్లో చేసుకుంటుంది. సో మోడర్న్ స్ట్రెస్ కోపింగ్ బిహేవియర్స్, జనరలీ దీంట్లో మనకి ఆర్కిటెక్చర్ ఎలా ఉంటుందంటే పర్సనాలిటీ టైప్ని బట్టి ఉంటుంది. సో మోడరేటర్స్ ఆర్ ది ఫ్యాక్టర్స్ దట్ ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్స్ వై సమ్ పీపుల్ ఆర్ మోర్ రెసిలియంట్ దెన్ అదర్స్. We have dispositional characteristics, that is internal characteristics, things inside us like personality, self-control, locus of control. You have done this experiment in 3rd semester also. So dispositional social factors like our support network, that is social factors are external. Support factors like our support network, these acts are the buffers that help us adapt the stressors without getting sick. Social network supports, etc. These are dispositional or internal. Social is external, where you can see internal biological or cognitive hardware of the individuals that determines how the income threat is perceived and processed. Personality, locus of control, self-control system. External safety net, where provide collective structure for aid, emotional buffering or alternative perspective. That is social support. So what are these? Personality type A and type B. So Robbins defined personality as the state of mind that leads your emotions and behavior. తను చెప్పాడు పర్సనాలిటీ personality అంటే as a mind that leads to your emotions and behavior. So type A personality are called sprinters. So running your sprinter అంటే ఎవరిని రన్ చేస్తుంటారు కదా ఇలా అంటే దే ఆర్ అగ్రెసివ్, కాంపిటేటివ్ అండ్ ఆల్వేస్ వాచింగ్ ది క్లాక్. వీళ్ళు అగ్రెసివ్గా ఉంటారు, డైనమిక్, హార్డ్ డ్రైవింగ్, ఫాస్ట్ పేస్డ్ అండ్ ఇంపేషెంట్ అండ్ హైలీ కాంపిటేటివ్. Generally always watching clock because they have always under time pressure. They are more prone to heart diseases. Right? Type B is easygoers. Type B, easygoers. Casual, relaxed, open to criticism and entirely focused on here. Ippudu, ikkade. They focus on here and now. So they are relaxed, so less likely to prone to sickness, considerably less prone to stress related illnesses, and generally reported much higher overall job satisfaction. So cognitive agencies, locus of control. What is locus of control? Believes that internal locus of control believes that the individual is primarily responsible for all full in control of what is happened to them. Everything they believe that it is because of them only it is happening, and their reaction to stress is that they adapt to problem focused active coping strategies, and they possess the self confidence needed to confront problems directly and engage in instrumental tasks. వీళ్ళు ఈజీగా దేన్నైనా హ్యాండిల్ చేయడానికి రెడీగా సిద్ధమవుతారు, లేదా దానికి తగ్గట్టుగా ప్రిపేర్ అవుతారు. ఎక్స్టర్నల్ లుక్స్ ఆఫ్ కంట్రోల్ ప్యాసివ్ డిస్ట్రెస్ లో ఉంటారు. జనరల్ గా ఫేట్ దే విల్ డిపెండ్ ఆన్ ఫేట్ అండ్ అదర్ పీపుల్ ఆర్ అవుట్ సైడ్ ఫోర్సెస్ ప్రైమర్లీ determine all the major events. Generally ఏది జరిగినా సరే they will say that because of God it is happening, because so and so person, because so and so person. Okay, reaction to stress ఎలా ఉంటుంది? They display the highest level of psychological distress when faced with a negative event. Feelings ultimately powerless against the environment. మన దగ్గర పవరే లేదు అనుకుంటారు. So external often feels more powerlessness and extensive high distress అన్నమాట వీళ్ళకి. So this feeling of being in control is tied directly to the mental battery. If మనం దీని మెంటల్ బ్యాటరీ కనెక్ట్ చేసి చూసుకుంటే, ఎగ్జాంపుల్గా అనాలజీ తీసుకుంటే, we all use to manage our emotions or our self control. ఎలా ఉంటుందంటే సెల్ఫ్ కంట్రోల్ అండ్ ది రిసోర్స్ డిప్లేషన్ ఎలా ఉంటుంది? సో సెల్ఫ్ కంట్రోల్ ఈజ్ యువర్ బాడీ యువర్ ఎబిలిటీ. Sleep deprivation. Okay. Ability to manage emotions and behavior to reach your goal. Emotions, behavior ni మీ గోల్ రీచ్ అవడానికి వాడతారు. థింక్ ఆఫ్ ది లైక్ ఏ ఫోన్ బ్యాటరీ. జనరల్గా మీ ఫోన్ బ్యాటరీ లాగా మీ ఎమోషన్స్ని మీ దీన్ని తీసుకుంటే, ఎవ్రీ టైమ్ యూ డీల్ విత్ ది షార్ట్ స్ట్రెస్ లైక్ ఆర్గ్యుమెంట్ ఆర్ మిస్సింగ్ స్లీప్, then like your battery drains automatically, slowly it starts draining. So people with high self control can keep their goals on track even when they are stressed, while those who with low self control are derailed. Complete ga వీళ్ళు కంట్రోల్లో ఉండరు, డీరైల్ అయిపోతారు. సో కాన్సిక్వెన్సెస్ సెల్ఫ్ కంట్రోల్ is not infinity. Once cognitive resources are depleted by daily stressors, individuals are easily derailed from goal achievements. Now, there is something called homeostasis. What is it called? It's an engine. Self-control is the physiological and psychological ability to maintain equilibrium, control emotions, and delay gratification in pursuit of our goals, where the body's temperature, heart rate, breathing, pulse, everything it maintains in a stable state. Now, support system, social support system. Yeah, social interaction or support system, and LOC, social support system. So it helps us to get friends and family. Perceived support, just knowing help is there if you need it. It makes you healthier and better at coping up. A received support is something like, actually needing someone to do some things for you can sometimes lower your self-esteem if it makes you feel incapable. Interestingly, internals use social support best because they use information to solve their own problems. Internal locus of control. Internals ante internal locus of control. Okay. So we have covered the biology and environment and personal traits that shape our stress levels. And now let us sum it up. Uh, Stress is universal wear and tear of the life. It is the complex reaction that affects our thinking and our emotions and our physical bodies. Whether you are facing positive eustress or harmful distress, your ability to bounce back depends upon your personality and your self-control, on the strength of the people standing around you. Understanding this unit are is the first step to make sure the stress doesn't take over your life. Now let us jump into the next unit. So what is the next unit? Stress effects. One second. Yeah. Yeah. So this is, introduction to natures of stress responses. Stress is natural physical and mental reaction in our life experiences. While often viewed as negative, this response is actually an adaptive process that evolved to help humans survive dangerous situations. For example, let us assume that individual facing a major life challenges like critical deadline, or a sudden emergency, or a body alarm system kicks in uh, into increased alertness. However, uh, if this state continues or high arousal becomes severe problem, can lead to significant tissue damage and physical damage and physical diseases. So to understand how the reaction works, we must first look into the biological balance and the body is constantly trying to maintain. So this area is amygdala. We'll understand. So let us assume that disruption of internal effects of stress and threat to homeostasis. So they would maintain uh, uh, homeostasis, environmental, psychological, biological, stressors. Okay. The maintenance of life is dependent on the homeostasis, which is the body's ability to keep its internal environment constant despite a changing external world. Stress represents any event that is seriously threatens this balance. In this context, the actual or perceived threat is called stressor, while the body's reaction to the stress response. So here it I've given it. Now the process is examined through three lenses. One is environmental, the other one is psychological, the other one is biological. So environmental is nothing objective demand, that is exam. Psychological is subjective evaluation, that is coping up ability or fear of falling. Biological is physiological system function, that is how your hormones react to the situation. So these are the important things. Now we're going to discuss that, right? So when homeostasis is threatened, the body activates several physical systems to meet the demands. So immediate biological alarm ఏంటది? Okay. So the immediate biological alarm is, so physical responses to the stress involve the physical system working unison with musculoskeletal system responds with muscle tensions. Musculoskeletal system ante muscle tensions అవుతూ first respond అవుతుంది. So responds with muscle tensions as a reflex to guard against injury or pain. Generally ఏమవుతుంది, if somebody lights a matchbox and immediately you remove hand from that fire, that respond musculoskeletal system responses అంటాం దీన్ని. So injury pain నుంచి తప్పించుకోవడం. However, the chronic tensions can lead to migraines and body aches, etc. Simultaneously, the respiratory system. What happens? Respiratory system ante breathing system. What happens, may cause shortness of breath or rapid breathing as airway constricts. Generally గా ఒకటే సేమ్ పైప్ లో నుంచి బ్రీతింగ్ ఒకసారి స్లో ఒకసారి స్పీడ్ గా ఎక్కువ కావాల్సి వస్తుంది. This is where it burdens the airway system. Then the cardiovascular system. Cardiovascular system is another one related to heart. So undergoes the most immediate change. General ga kuda immediate effect ichedi cardiovascular system. So changes as the fight or flight response, increases heart rate or blood pressure to pump blood to large muscles. Okay, while these physical changes occur, there is a parallel impact on the individual's mental and emotional state. Individual mental and emotional state kuda effect jarugutundi. ఏ విధంగా చెక్ చేద్దాం, we'll check it. So this is psychological strain. ఎలా జరుగుతుంది, స్ట్రెస్ ఎలా ఉంటుంది అంటే the mental strain kuda అనొచ్చు మనం. It happens in 1, 2, 3. We'll check how. So psychological stress is considered the type of also known as psychological pain or feeling of strain and pressure. It hits the psyche, which encompasses the total human faculty, thought, judgment. While positive impact istunదని చెప్తున్నాం. Okay, while positive eustress can improve performance and motivation, excessive stress can or could judgment and trigger negative thought patterns. Common psychological symptoms include restlessness, apprehension, and lack of focus. So positive ఉన్నప్పుడు everything becomes positive and we look into different perspective where if emotion judgment is negative, emotional judgment is negative, what happens? Automatically thought becomes negative. So it is mental strain per se. If this mental strain persists, it can lead to more profound and long-term disturbances in mental health. ఇది కంటిన్యూ అయితే ఏమవుతుంది, లాంగ్ టర్మ్ స్ట్రెయిన్ ఉంటుంది. So how it affects? So impact of brain functions, HPA axis. Yeah. So constant arousal disturbance disturbs mental focus and can lead to the development of mood disorder. Constant గా రిలీజ్ అవుతుంది హెచ్పిఏ యాక్సెస్ హైపోథాలమస్ నుంచి అన్ని కంటిన్యూస్ రిలీజ్ అవుతున్నాయి. ఏమవుతుంది ఇట్ బికమ్స్ మూడ్ డిస్టర్బెన్సెస్ ఆర్ డిజార్డర్స్ వస్తాయి. ది హెచ్పిఏ యాక్సెస్ ఆర్ హైపోథాలమిక్ పిట్యూటరీ.
Sir, mental health and mental alteration both are different.
Sorry?
Mental health and mental alteration both are different.
Some health is different.
Okay.
Okay. So HPA, hypothalamic and pituitary adrenal axis, drives the endocrine stress response, resulting in high levels of cortisol and the stress hormone. These hormones can decrease the function of neurons in the hypothalamus. In the hippocampus, this region. So automatically decreases the functioning of neurons in hippocampus and prefrontal cortex. This is prefrontal cortex. In the executive function area, we call it executive function area of our brain, prefrontal cortex. So the brain region responsible for memory, attention, and problem solving. This biological shift is the major contributor to depression, bipolar disorder, and anxiety disorder. Okay. So these internal changes are inevitably manifest in the way an individual interacts with their environment. So what are the environment and the surrounding us, right? So outward manifestation and systemic strain. So stress evokes complex physiological observable changes. That is, stress evokes complex physiological changes that results in visible behavioral reactions. One common reaction is social withdrawal. Social withdrawal. So పక్కకు వెళ్ళిపోతారు. They will not interact with sociability decreases or reduces social interactions, often accompanied by irritability and hostility. Individuals may also experience decreased productivity and interpersonal conflicts, a tendency towards isolation. Furthermore, stress is linked to increased health compromising habits such as smoking, substance abuse, and altered eating patterns. So when these behaviors are physiological changes become chronic and pave the way for severe injuries. Automatically, if these habits are there, it can lead to severe illness. So it is not the microbes or the poison that is, or the allergen, but our reaction to these agents that we experience as the disease. Hansley's first ichina statement, it is given differently. Okay, so what is this? The researcher Hansley observed that the disease is often not caused by the external agents alone, but is the body's reaction to the stressors. While it was once thought that the stress only made existing problem worse, but modern researchers prove that the chronic stress can actually cause disease. In modern world, chronic stress is most ubiquitous or common factors influencing the overall health and well-being. The specific biological mechanism that links a feeling of stress or physical disease is found in the body inflammatory response. So biochemical link of the distress is that, step one, relentless cortisol exposure. So primary link between the stress and illness is cortisol. Under chronic stress, the body is exposed to relentless stress of 24/7 cortisol, eventually causing the cell to become desensitized to the hormone. When cell stops responding to the cortisol, body ability to respond to inflammation is reduced. Is compromised. This long-term unreleased stress suppresses the immune system, allowing the silent inflammation and damaging the body over time. The runaway inflammation eventually results in the variety of debilitating medical conditions. So what is these debilitating medical cardiovascular diseases, metabolic syndrome, and diabetic, autoimmune, and inflammatory diseases? So ongoing, what happened, because of the stress influences almost every system in the body, and the resulting illness are widespread. The inflammation model explains that the progression of cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, and metabolic syndrome. Chronic stress also contributes to higher susceptibility to viral infections, slower healing, and painful joints or autoimmune disorders. In addition to these physical ailments, the mind can also reach the point of exhaustion and breakdown. So mind means mental. Okay. So what happens? I've listed out certain things. So, okay, if the stress continues like this, body is unable to cope. These breakdown, there is a breakdown of bodily resources. When the systemic nervous system, when this sympathetic nervous system and the HPA axis are constantly overactive, the body enters the state of exhaustion. This transition results in psychiatric illness, most notably major depression, which is characterized by unremitting feeling of worthlessness, self-hate, and profound fatigue. The severity of these outcomes often depends upon whether the stress is is a brief episode or long-term burden. So if if it is there, automatically it breaks down and continuously disturbed. Now there are types of stresses right away. One eustress and the distress. In distress we have acute stress and chronic stress, where acute stress is short term and highly adaptive, triggers immediately adrenaline and response, high resilience. The body is designed to recover quickly and return to baseline. That is, within 3 minutes your homeostasis is retrieved back. Now chronic stress is long term, and it is highly maladaptive. Relentless cortisol dominance, continuous cortisol will be there, and which is dominating the entire system, causes progressive wear and tear, brings the system to edge to collapse, it is like continuously bulldozing your system. It is also called bulldozer effect. So by understanding the differences, we can better summarize overall impact of the stress, the interconnectedness of the overall. Thank you. Yeah, uh, three pillars, three pillars of the stress. In summary, stress is powerful force that affects three major domains: body, that is physical; mind, that is psychological; and the behavior. So it disrupts homeostasis, and through the chronic release of cortisol, leads to systemic inflammation and suppression of the immune system. Recognizing these common symptoms is essential for effective stress management. This understanding allows us to develop the development of the targeted strategies and maintaining health. Identification and the return of homeostasis. So the first step of preventing the stress-related ill health is the identifying sign and symptoms. By recognizing indicators like headache, social withdrawal, and lack of focus, individuals can implement psychosocial interventions. While it may not be possible to eliminate all the stressors, okay, managing the body's response is critical to maintaining long-term health and preventing the transitional from stress to ill health. Right. So now let us move to the next one. We hardly have 5 minutes. I try to complete it. Okay. So coping up is the next unit. That is unit number 6, coping with the stress. So now, 1 second. You all remember, right? Pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic. This is the feeling being totally bewildered and confused and threatened. That is stress at its peak, when the life demands feel way bigger than our ability and to handle them, but humans are built to fight back. Coping is simply the name for those active, conscious efforts we make to master, reduce, or adapt to the stress. It is about investing your own personal energy to handle the threat. Now we have defined that coping is, let us look closer at its actual nature and how it works in our daily lives. Okay, the process. Now, coping up isn't one-time thing. It is the process. It is the process. It is conscious attempt to minimize or tolerate the problem. Life, problems life throws at us. From the bad grades to the major losses. Exam లో మార్క్స్ తక్కువ వచ్చిన దగ్గర నుంచి అవ్వచ్చు, పెద్ద పెద్ద లాసెస్ వరకు కూడా అవ్వచ్చు. So famous psychologists Flokman and Lazarus in 1984 described that it is the constantly changing cognitive and behavioral efforts to manage demands that are taxing our resources. Thinking of it like walking on a tightrope, you are constantly adjusting your balance to keep from falling over while staying true to yourself. While balancing on a tightrope, you'll definitely balance without falling on, right? That's how it should be balanced. Now, to maintain the balance, we use specific tools called coping mechanism, which we will explore now in our next slides. So what is coping? You understood, right? Coping is conscious and purposeful. These are the strategies we use to manage painful emotions so we can keep functioning interestingly. We use them for both bad times like breakups, and good times like moving into new home, because even happy changes can be stressful. A key thing to remember in your for your exams is that coping mechanisms are conscious and purposeful. This is different from defense mechanism, which Sigmund Freud noted. Which Sigmund Freud noted happen mostly at any unconscious levels. You usually don't even know you are using them to change your internal state. Sigmund Freud said, unknowingly, unconsciously, you are using coping up mechanisms. So internally. Now, while all the coping is conscious, not all coping looks the same. Let us break them down in different types. As I already told you, this is coping: purposeful, unconscious, and automatic. Now let us explore what are the types of coping techniques or methods. So one is, we can categorize coping in few ways. One is we can categorize them into two main, then three different: healthy and escapism. The first one, avoidant, active. Active is conscious, deliberate efforts to reduce stress. So facing the conscious, deliberated efforts to reduce. This is facing the stress. This one is called facing the stress. Then avoidant is ignoring it. Avoidant is ignoring the stress. We'll discuss one by one, right? Then proactive. There are reactive, that is responding after the stress hits, then versus the proactive, neutralizing the stressor before even it happens. Then the other one is most important for your well-being is adaptive and maladaptive. What are they? Adaptive methods like talking to a friend are healthy and effective. Maladaptive methods are like overreacting or excessive gaming. Might feel good for a minute, but actually increases your stress at the longer run. So I've defined every point here. Just go through. So how do most people actually practice these types of coping? Here are some of the most important ways. So universal tool. How do everybody cope up? So we all are unique, and we often use different combinations, cocktail means, of different strategies at once. Some in common effective mode or physical exercise and to blow up the stream, or social support, which is just seeking help from others. And there is a meditation which helps you to reach a deeply relaxed state, and biofeedback, where you actually use your thoughts to control physical things like your heart rate, etc. While these are the common methods, psychologists have created models to explain the deeper logic behind why we choose to face or flee problem. ఫేస్ ఆర్ పారిపోవడం, ఎదుర్కోవడం లేదా పారిపోవడం ఎందుకు చేస్తామనేది బయాలజీ డిఫరెంట్గా ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ చేశారు. ఏంటో చూద్దాం. సో ది ఫస్ట్ వన్ ఈస్ దట్ approach avoidance coping model. This model focuses on two basic moves. That one is approach, moving towards the threat. Avoidance is moving away from the threat. So think of it like a cycle between retrieve and encounter. Sometimes avoidance is actually useful for short term relief. కొన్నిసార్లు అవాయిడెన్స్ తప్పించుకోవడము షార్ట్ టర్మ్ రిలీఫ్ కోసం మంచిది, కానీ అన్కంట్రోలబుల్ సిచ్యువేషన్స్ కి actually useful for uncontrollable situations. But approach is usually better for long term because it allows you to take action. Psychologists Schoen in 1975 even looked at this in terms of illness, where the people either fragment by denying the problem or contain it by integrating the threat into their lives. So moving towards or away from the threat often starts with how we think about it, which leads to appraisal focus strategy. So what is appraisal focus strategy? It is about the cognitive modification, changing how you think. It involves challenging your assumptions. Often we think we are responding to reality, but we actually responding to our interpretations of it. Okay. If you fail a quiz or an exam and you think I am a failure, that is an appraisal. Appraisal coping involves re-evaluating the thought to say, I just need a better study plan. Okay, so this is one coping technique. So if changing your thought doesn't work, you might focus on managing the feeling of the stressor create చేసేదాన్ని ఎలా మేనేజ్ చేసుకోవాలి అన్నది చూద్దాం. For example, in emotion focused coping strategies. So what are they? Sometimes you can't even change a situation like terminal illness or loss. So you have to manage the distress itself. This emotion focused coping. Think of that your emotions are safety valve. So great technique here includes journaling, రాయడం, to let your feelings out, and reframing and look at silver lining. కొత్తదాన్ని కొత్త విధంగా చూడడం, reframe చేసి. Meditating to calm your mind, body, stress responses. Managing, so the reframing, meditation and journaling, which is very important. Just remember, journaling is nothing but writing down thoughts and feelings, everything, and you don't need to show it to anybody, just keep it to yourself. Reframing, look at it another perspective. Meditation, calming the body. Now, taking the helm. So what is it? Problem focused coping, directly action, eliminating the root of the source of the stress. So what this is about, tackling the problem head on. రాకముందే, to eliminate the source of first లోనే ముందే ఎదుర్కోవడం. Lazarus identified 3 main ways of seeking information, taking control and weighing pros and cons. 2 pros and cons ని balance గా weigh చేసి చూడడం. It is a weighing. Interestingly, Sigmund Freud even suggested that humor is a great defense. Here, because laughing at the tough situation, creating an interesting sense of relief, you might also feel sublimation, which is the challenging your stress into something socially productive, like art or work. So problem solving is the how, and solution focused coping is about the action that follows. So these are the affiliation, finding, social support, humor, Sigmund Freud's theory, and sublimation. And these are very important. And we are now coming to the other one, solution focused coping strategy. So this is when you take specific action, change your circumstances. It often only takes a small change of state of positive chain reaction. ఒక చిన్న చేంజ్ మిగతా అన్నిటిని మార్పులు చేసుకుంటూ వస్తుంది. ఫర్ For us students, two of the biggest tools are the time management. Students can call what is important? It is about time management, most important too. Then the exam schedule. So time management for those crazy exam schedules, right? Then conflict resolution. For when roommate or friend drama gets into it, automatically friends వచ్చి disturb చేస్తుంటే what will you do? You have to plan it. ఇంకో చోటకి వెళ్ళడం, or you have to manage, time manage చేసుకొని ముందే ప్రిపేర్ అవడం. We look for the many global models, but fascinating to see how these concepts differ from own cultural context. మన దగ్గర ఎలా ఉన్నాయి కల్చరల్ కాంటెక్స్ట్ లో చాలా గ్లోబల్ మోడల్స్ చూసాం. హౌ అబౌట్ ఇండియన్ మోడల్స్? So the cultural context, while Western coping often emphasizes on pushing through and hassle culture, the Indian perspective highlights the experts like Meena Hariharan focus more on honesty and honesty with oneself. It is about knowing when to say no and reworking your expectations so you aren't just amassing wealth or status. It emphasizes on nurturing character strength, like compassion and clarity of mind, thought proven practices like yoga and spirituality. So whether we use yoga or a problem solving, how psychologists actually measure it, someone good at coping, we will understand that now. So mapping the mind, measuring, we are about to complete this, just need 5 more minutes. Measuring coping is a tricky because it is the multi-dimensional process, not just one behavior. We look at two areas, that is trait component and trait component and state component. So trait trait is stable and state is fixed style of handling stress across the most situations, and state coping, which is your flexible, dynamic and response to the specific event. Assessing this helps psychologists to predict how someone's mental health might hold up under pressure. వీళ్ళు ప్రెషర్ని ఎలా హ్యాండిల్ చేయగలుగుతారు? ఒకటి స్టేట్ పర్మనెంట్గా ఉన్నదాన్ని ట్రేడ్ కోపింగ్ అంటాము, టెంపరీ ఆర్ సిచ్యువేషనల్గా ఉన్నది స్టేట్. These are the two gold standard tools. There are 2 gold standard tools. These are the measure for this measurement, and first is the COPE inventory. So COPE inventory is developed by Cavier and Skevier, and they are a massive 60 item tool that looks at our stable coping style, and it breaks things down into problem focused like planning and emotional focused like acceptance, and even measures less than ideal responses like alcohol disengagement. If 60 items sounds too long, there is a brief scope version that is about 28 items that must be faster to use. 60 items e kaakunda 28 items scale kuda undi, which is very easy and faster to use. Now, while the COPE looks at your general style, our next tool looks at how we handle specific real life events. That is situational and way to coping questionnaire, WCQ, way of coping questionnaire. This is created by Flockman and Razars in 1988. This situational measure asks you to focus on one specific stressful event you actually experienced. It looks at things like painful problem solving for distancing. There is also revised version of Valentino WCCR that is really strong predictor whether someone might experience anxiety or depression based on their coping choices. So we have covered almost the definitions, models, and the measurements. Now I think it is time to wrap up. To summarize this, coping is an active dynamic process. It is not something you do not advise. sorry, something you do once, but a constant adjustment to life demands. Whether you use an Indian perspective on inner honesty or a Western problem solving model, the goal is the same: well being. As the sources beautifully put it, the measurement of the coping is probably as much as an art as it is a science. Thank you. So I think we are done now. So thank you all for attending class. Do you have any doubts? Shall we discuss? Or anyway, time is up. It is only 1 hour given to me. I've covered the unit 4, 5, and 6. So one is stress. The other one is what creates stress. That is, effects of stress. The other one is coping with stress. 4, 5, 6. In detail, we discussed. We have covered all the major topics, which can be part of your exam also. So thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. See you. Okay, we see you all. Bye.
Yes, sir. Bye, sir.
Thank you, sir.